Do not show up and spoil your mother's birthday. My father warned, his voice sharp as the knife cutting that perfect cake of appearances. I smiled, nodded, and walked away because arguing never changed anything in our family. That night, while they toasted to reputation and pretense, the headlines did what I never could. My name, my company, the sale millions. Every guest at my mother's party froze in front of the television as the truth they refused to hear finally spoke for me. They wanted to keep me out to protect their image, but that same image shattered under my success. Funny, is it not, how silence can become the loudest revenge? My name is Ethan Ward, and if you have ever been treated like a disappointment by the people who should have believed in you first, then maybe you will understand me more than anyone else. Before I share my story, I want to know you are here with me. Just say, listening in the comments, or let me know where you are. I love hearing how far my story reaches. Sometimes even the smallest connection can make a story feel heard. Thank you. And now here is my story. And if my story speaks to you, please subscribe. Not for me, but for every person who has ever been underestimated and still chose to rise because voices like ours deserve to be heard. 3 days before my mother's 65th birthday, the light in my parents' kitchen had the golden softness of late Oregon fall, the kind of light that makes everything look gentler than it really is. I walked in holding a small box wrapped in gray paper, a gift I had spent weeks hunting down a vintage Swiss watch my father once said he wanted when I was a kid. Back then he called it a piece of time that never lies. I thought it would make him smile. Instead, it became the opening statement in what felt like a family trial. My father stood by the counter, arms folded across his golf sweater, the same stance he took in every argument he intended to win. My brother Logan, the family's golden son, leaned against the island with a practiced smirk that always managed to make him look like he pitied you. My mother, Margaret, sat at the table, turning her coffee cup in small circles, already aware something unpleasant was about to unfold, but not willing to stop it. Ethan, my father said we need to talk about Saturday. I smiled, assuming he meant logistics. The party? Sure. What time do you want me there? That is just it. He continued, glancing at Logan. We think it is better if you do not come. For a moment, I thought I had misheard him. You do not want me there. Logan exhaled like someone forced to explain common sense to a child. It is not personal, Ethan. It is optics. Mom's birthday is a big deal. Dad's colleagues, my partners from the firm, Mom's country club circle. These people notice things. What things? He looked me over, eyes pausing on my plain jacket and jeans. You are 32. You still rent a small apartment. You do whatever it is you do online. You do not exactly fit the room we will have Saturday night. I turned to my mother. Is that what you think too? She did not meet my eyes. It is not about what I think, honey. It is about how it looks. Mrs. Caldwell's daughter just made partner at her law firm. The Peterson boy is a heart surgeon. People compare. I nodded slowly. And what do you say when they ask about me? She hesitated. I say you are still figuring things out. Logan chuckled. You have been figuring things out for 9 years. At some point, that is not a phase. It is avoidance. It was like watching a play where everyone already knew their lines. My father cleared his throat as if to wrap it up. Do not make this dramatic, son. It is just a matter of appearances. We do not want anyone uncomfortable. The kitchen clock ticked once loudly, so I said softly, I am an embarrassment. Logan raised a brow. No one said that. We are just being realistic. Realistic. That word always meant, we have decided how small you are. I looked at my father, then at the watch box, still in my hand. I placed it gently on the counter between us. You used to say time does not lie. Maybe it will tell you something you have missed. He glanced at the box, then pushed it aside, not even curious. You will understand someday. I smiled. Maybe. Happy birthday, Mom. I walked out before my voice betrayed me. Behind me, their murmurs blurred together like static. The evening air outside was cold and thin. It cut through the heat rising in my chest. I got into my car, the light from the house reflecting on the windshield, and thought that was the kind of warmth that burns only from one side. I did not shout or defend myself. I did not need to. Every word they said was already recorded in me line by line like code waiting for execution. Back at my place in Portland, I dropped the keys on the counter, sat by the window, and stared at the city stretching beneath the early twilight. The watch I had tried to give my father ticked faintly inside its box. I set it down beside my laptop, opened my email, and scrolled past the one titled press release draft, V12. Synapse AI BioCore. Saturday, 7:30 p.m., the same time the party would start. Time never lies. I just had to let it speak. My apartment in Portland looked like any minimalist's home. Bare walls, gray couch, glass desk, but behind a sliding door sat the real reason for my solitude, the servers and workstations that powered Synapse AI. To the world, it was just another health tech startup. To me, it was 9 years of trying to build something meaningful out of silence. It started in a basement. Noah Kim and I met at a tech conference in Seattle, both broke, both too stubborn to work for anyone else. We shared a conviction that data could save lives if you taught it empathy. So we started training an AI model that could detect early signs of heart disease using nothing but existing patient scans and open-source data. The first 2 years nearly broke us. We coded 18 hours a day, slept on folding chairs, survived on instant noodles, and argued about whose algorithm caused which crash. Every time we thought we had fixed one error, 3 new ones appeared. Money ran out so often that I took freelance coding jobs at night to keep the servers running. But failure was strangely liberating. It meant no one expected us to succeed. By year 3, we secured a small research grant from a biomed foundation in Oregon. The condition was that we had to show real results within 12 months. We spent those months inside a hospital basement working alongside doctors who did not quite believe in us but liked our enthusiasm. The night our model correctly identified a patient's heart anomaly, something the scans had missed. I realized what we were building was no longer an experiment. It was proof. In year 5, we signed pilot contracts with 2 hospital systems. Our software was reducing diagnostic bias in women and minority patients, something larger companies had not managed to solve. The medical journal Cardio Insight Journal wrote a small piece about us calling Synapse AI an emerging voice in ethical artificial intelligence. I printed it, folded it, and kept it in a drawer. I did not send it to my parents. When I told them casually that I was working on a startup, my father said, "Those things fail all the time." My mother changed the subject to Logan's new promotion. After that, I stopped updating them. By year 7, our algorithm surpassed the FDA accuracy standard. That was when BioCore, one of the biggest healthcare conglomerates in the country, called. They wanted to buy us. Noah was thrilled. I was cautious. Money was never the point. I just wanted to protect what we had built. As negotiations stretched across months, a strange email appeared in our internal thread. A business development manager from Seattle, someone I had never met, had forwarded a resume to ourwardgroup.com, mailed instead to ourportlandgroup.com, Logan's firm. At first, I thought it was coincidence. Then I noticed the sender's name matched one of my mother's acquaintances from her country club. Suddenly, the lines between family and business did not feel so separate anymore. Still, I said nothing. One Friday night, I stayed in the office long after everyone had left reviewing BioCore's final terms. I opened the press release draft attached to the email from their PR team. The release date, Saturday, 7:30 p.m. My mother's party. I laughed under my breath. Of course I had not asked for this timing. It just happened. Maybe the universe had a dark sense of symmetry. Noah messaged me. Should we delay the announcement? You know, out of respect for your family thing? I typed back. No, leave it. Let the news speak for itself. I shut my laptop, reached for the watch I had brought back from my parents' house, and wound it for the first time. The ticking filled the room, steady, certain, indifferent. For 9 years, no one had asked what I was building, why I stayed quiet, or what I hoped for. On Saturday night, they would not need to ask. Time would tell them everything. The next afternoon, I stood on the 50th floor of BioCora's glass tower in San Francisco, the skyline stretching out beyond the bay like a steel horizon. The room was bright clinical, designed to remind you that numbers mattered more than nerves. I should have felt triumphant. This was the moment every founder dreams about. But the weight in my chest did not feel like victory. It felt like consequence. Catherine Doyle, BioCore's chief executive officer, was already there when I walked in. She was a tall woman with silver-streaked hair and the kind of posture that came from decades of refusing to bend to anyone. She shook my hand firmly. "You built something remarkable, Ethan," she said. "Let us make sure it stays that way." The legal team sat at the far end of the table, laptops, open, glowing contracts projected on the wall. Line after line of clauses scrolled upward, each sentence carving out a future that would soon no longer belong entirely to me. We started with the numbers. $480 million, half cash, half BioCore stock. The figure filled the room like another person, silent but demanding to be noticed. I tried to focus on the clauses that mattered to me. "We keep the bias control module open for federal review," I said. "No company should own the ethical heart of an algorithm." Catherine nodded. "Agreed. We are buying your product, not your conscience." The next condition was the foundation. I wanted 3% of the product's annual revenue set aside for scholarships in biomedical artificial intelligence, a fund I explained for kids who could not afford to dream this big but might change the world if they could. One of the lawyers frowned. "That is unusual." Catherine lifted a hand. "So is building a machine that saves lives without exploiting them." "Include it." When the final draft appeared on the screen, she turned to me. "Your family must be proud." I looked out at the river below. "They will stay quiet until someone turns on a television." Her brow rose. "The announcements are tomorrow night at 7:30. That is what our communications team scheduled." "Pure coincidence, maybe," I said. "Sometimes coincidence is the universe's way of being fair." The meeting paused while the lawyers checked timestamps and signatures. My phone buzzed with an email from Noah. A tech blog had reached out claiming to have inside sources about the acquisition. If they leaked it early, the deal could freeze. Catherine studied my face. "You want to postpone?" I shook my head. "The hospitals using our platform are waiting for this release. If we delay, patients wait too. Let them publish when they are ready." She smiled faintly. "You are the rare founder who still cares about purpose after the commas." But purpose did not keep the anxiety from crawling up my spine. Logan's Portland. Legal group partners' gossip networks were filled with people who traded information like currency. One wrong conversation could have sent rumors in every direction. I thought of my mother sipping wine with her friends, repeating those rumors without realizing they might be about me. When the contracts were ready, Catherine stood. "Let us do this." We both signed. For a second, everything went quiet except for the hum of the city below us. I reached across the table, shook her hand, and said, "Thank you for seeing the parts that matter. Tomorrow," she said, "the world will see them too. Be ready. Reporters will want your face, not just your code." "Faces fade," I replied. "Work lasts." She laughed not unkindly. "You sound like someone who has been underestimated one time too many. Do the interview after the release, Ethan. Do not let this turn into a headline about money. Anchor it in meaning. Show them who you are." I agreed. She did not know that I had already planned to be alone when the news broke. By the time I left the building, the sky had turned the color of burnished copper. I caught a cab to my hotel, leaned back against the seat, and opened the watch case. The gears inside glinted as I wound them. The hands began to move again, steady and deliberate. It struck me that my father's watch was about to witness something he would never believe. For the first time in years, time felt like it was finally on my side. Saturday night arrived like a test I had not studied for, but somehow already knew the answers. The city outside my Seattle apartment buzzed with weekend noise, yet my living room was silent except for the low hum of the refrigerator and the tick of the watch on my wrist. On the screen of my laptop, the BioCore site was queued for the press release. 7:15 p.m., 15 minutes to go. I poured myself a small glass of whiskey and stared at the reflection of the television in the window. Somewhere across the country, at the Silver Lake Country Club in Portland, my mother's party was in full swing, champagne jazz, and people who used the word prestige like it was currency. I could almost hear Logan introducing himself to every partner within reach. At 7:30, the news hit. Channel 7's headline banner slid across the screen. Local innovator Ethan Ward sells AI company for $480 million. The anchor's voice was calm, rehearsed the kind of tone reserved for market news or political wins. My photo filled the screen, the same professional headshot we had used for BioCore's investor deck. I felt a strange detachment, as if I were watching a stranger who just happened to share my name. Then my phone vibrated nonstop. Noah texted first. "It is everywhere." I typed back, "Let it breathe." Across the country, the moment I had avoided imagining was happening in the ballroom. Between a saxophone solo and the waiters serving dessert, the televisions mounted near the bar switched from sports to the business channel. Someone noticed first, probably one of my father's colleagues, and pointed. My mother followed the gesture glass halfway to her lips and froze. My father's face went stiff. Logan leaned closer to the screen, muttered, "Must be another Ethan Ward." Then the camera cut to my photo again, name captioned clearly. The hum of conversation shifted into murmurs, then full voices. "Margaret, is that your son?" a woman asked. "Why did you not tell us?" My mother forced a laugh that did not reach her eyes. "Oh, he has been working on something small for a while. I had no idea it was this, but she could not redirect the flood." Guests circled their curiosity, smelling faintly of envy. Questions fired from every direction. "What is his company called? Why did you not mention him earlier? Is he in the city tonight?" My father excused himself from a cluster of men by the bar phone already in hand. He dialed my number, pacing near the stage where a banner read, "Happy 65th Margaret Ward." I watched the screen light up with his call and let it ring until it stopped. He called again. I silenced it. Back at the party, Logan stepped outside to the terrace, the city lights reflecting off his cufflinks. If he timed this to make us look foolish, he hissed to my father. Then congratulations to him. It worked. My father said nothing. He just stared through the glass doors at the crowd surrounding my mother. The same people he had wanted to impress. Every handshake now came with a question mark. Sitting alone in my apartment, I did not feel revenge. Just irony. 9 years of silence, and this was what finally got their attention. Not what I had built, not the lives saved, but the price tag attached to it. I had once dreamed of hearing them ask, "What drives you?" Now they would only ask, "How much are you worth?" Another vibration. A text from an unfamiliar number. Channel 7 here. "We would love to get a comment from your mother tonight for our follow-up segment." I stared at it for a moment, then called Catherine. "BioCore's PR needs to cancel any outreach to my family. I said they are not prepared for this." She understood immediately. Consider it handled." I set the phone down, relieved for the first time that someone outside my bloodline knew how to protect what mattered. Minutes later, Noah's excitement got the better of him. A new notification popped up his post on social media. A celebratory photo of us in BioCore's office yesterday, tagged with my name, and the caption, "We did it." Within seconds, the post exploded across every platform. The algorithm did not care about mercy. At Silver Lake, more guests noticed the flood of online stories. Someone showed my mother their phone. A headline screamed, "The local boy who outsmarted Silicon Valley." She did not respond. She simply sat down, the applause for the band echoing around her like static. I turned off the television and leaned back on the couch. Outside, the wind shifted, carrying faint music from a bar down the street. On another continent at the same night, my family stood in a room built to impress people who would never love them back. I raised the glass, watching the amber swirl. Somewhere far away, glasses were clinking too. But for the first time in my life, I did not need to be part of the toast. Let them talk. Let the headlines play on every screen in that golden room. My silence had already done the speaking. The phone rang at 8:10 p.m. The screen lit up with a name I had not seen since that afternoon in their kitchen. Mom. For a few seconds, I just stared at it, the amber glow from the streetlight stretching across my desk. I did not want to pick up, but something in me still owed her an answer. I pressed accept. "Ethan." Her voice trembled, half shock, half disbelief. "They are saying you sold your company for $480 million. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. 480? I said quietly. "The same project I have been working on for 9 years while you all thought I was dodging a real job." She did not respond right away, and in the pause I could hear the noise of the party leaking through the chatter, the clinking glasses, the muffled sound of a jazz band trying to play through chaos. Then my father's voice cut in sharp as a blade. "Do you have any idea how this makes us look? You let us stand here like fools while the whole town finds out on television." "I told you I was an entrepreneur," I said evenly. You laughed. "Maybe now that there is a dollar sign attached, it finally counts as something worth hearing." "Do not be disrespectful," he snapped. "You could have given us a heads up. You humiliated your mother in front of everyone." Before I could answer, another voice joined in. "Logan, predictable as gravity. You need to get down here. Everyone is asking questions. Mom is crying. People think we have been lying. You cannot leave her like this." "I was not invited," I reminded him. "Remember, you said I would ruin it." "That was before we knew," he said, lowering his tone. "Before we understood what you had been doing. So now that I am rich, I am family again." No one spoke. All I heard was the band stopping mid-song, replaced by a low murmur of gossip. Then my mother came back on the line. "Ethan, please. I just wanted tonight to be special. I did not want to lose control of it. I wanted to be proud, not blindsided." I could picture her sitting at that table, surrounded by people she had built her identity around, the same people who now whispered my name like it was currency. "You had every chance to be proud," I said softly. "All you had to do was ask what I was building instead of what it was worth." My father's voice returned angrier this time. "Do not act like a martyr. You could have chosen any other night." I laughed under my breath. "You give me too much credit. The timing was not mine to choose. Maybe you just do not like that the truth did not need your permission to arrive." He raised his voice, and for the first time I did not flinch. "You are selfish. You made this family look ridiculous." "No, Dad," I said quietly. "You did that the moment you cared more about appearances than people." My mother's sobs came through, faintly, a sound that twisted somewhere deep in my chest. "Ethan," she whispered, "please come home. Let us fix this before it gets worse." "I cannot," I said. "You made it clear I was not welcome. You do not get to revoke that just because the cameras showed up. The silence that followed was heavy like static between two frequencies that would never meet again. I could hear Logan breathing into the line, ready to argue, but I did not give him the chance. I hope the party goes well, I said, steady but not cold. But I am not coming. You asked me to stay away, and I intend to respect that request. I hung up before they could respond. Almost immediately, the phone buzzed again. An unknown number this time. A photo popped up on my screen, a shot of the Silver Lake Ballroom. The caption read, "The guest who outshone the hosts." My face glowed from the television in the background. Everyone else turned toward it like a mirror of regret. I set the phone down, exhaled once, then it buzzed again. Noah, this time, said breathless, "Someone is trying to access the servers from a Portland-based IP. They are using a legal firm's domain." Which one, I asked, already knowing the answer. He hesitated. "Portland Legal Group, the same one your brother works for." I rubbed my temple. "Lock it down. Send me the audit log. No one gets in without my signature." After I hung up, another message arrived, an email from Catherine. "Do not post or respond to anything public. Let the noise burn itself out. Silence is your greatest weapon right now." I closed my laptop. The apartment went dark except for the faint city glow seeping through the blinds. The watch on my wrist ticked steadily, unfazed by everything that was breaking apart. For years they had mistaken my quiet for weakness. But tonight, silence was the only thing I had left that was entirely mine. By 10:00 p.m., the ballroom at Silver Lake looked nothing like the glossy invitation promised. The band had stopped playing. The waiters were clearing half-eaten plates. Conversations died mid-sentence as guests slipped away. Some pretended to have early mornings, others were too eager to escape the awkward air. On every phone screen, the same headline glowed, "The son they did not invite." Someone had leaked a photo from inside the party. The television frozen on my face while my parents stood beneath the Happy 65th Margaret Ward banner. Within an hour, the image was everywhere. A popular business blogger captioned it, "They tried to hide their son's success. The internet made sure they could not." The post hit 1 million views before dessert. Logan was the first to try damage control. "Ethan has always been private," he told a group of guests near the bar. "He hates attention." It sounded rehearsed. No one believed him. My mother sat in her chair, shoulders slumped, staring at the half-melted candles on her cake. My father paced near the doors, arguing with the club manager about shutting off the televisions. "This is supposed to be a private event," he barked. Across the room, someone whispered, "Poor Margaret. Imagine finding out your son is a millionaire on live television." Meanwhile, I was miles away, driving aimlessly through Seattle's empty streets. I had turned off all notifications, but the phone still pulsed with unseen messages. Catherine texted the schedule for tomorrow's morning interview, national television, 8 a.m. She thought it would help stabilize the story, making it about innovation instead of scandal. I parked outside a quiet bar I had not visited in years. The bartender looked up surprised. "Heard the news. Guess the city finally caught up to you." I managed a small smile. "Took them long enough." He slid a drink across the counter without asking what I wanted. The first sip burned, grounding me. For a few minutes, I let the noise of the world fade. Then the phone buzzed again, Noah emailing from his laptop. "We just got a server request traced to an account named Logan Ward. Someone tried to access Synapse AI's legal files. We blocked it, but he was clearly fishing for leverage." I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. My own brother, the one who once mocked me for dreaming too small, was now trying to crawl inside my work for profit. There was something poetic in the predictability. A new email appeared, this one from my mother. No greeting, no explanation, just one sentence. "You won, but we lost." I read it 3 times before closing the app. She was not wrong. I had not wanted them to lose only to see me clearly for once. But maybe loss was the only lens they understood. Minutes later, Catherine called. Her voice was calm but edged with irritation. "Your father reached out to our PR department. He demanded we remove the ward name from tomorrow's press materials. If he keeps pushing, it could look like interference." "I am sorry," I said quietly. "He is trying to save face." "Well, he is close to losing it entirely," she replied. "Focus on the interview. Let the work speak. Do not let them rewrite your story." When the call ended, I scrolled through my feed. A journalist had already found my address and posted a photo of my apartment building. The caption read, "From a modest one-bedroom to a multi-million-dollar empire." My inbox filled with requests for interviews, sponsorships, offers to speak at conferences. The same silence they once mocked had turned into currency overnight. Back at Silver Lake, the lights dimmed. My father stood alone near the stage, talking to no one. My mother's friends whispered around her table, their pity sharper than any insult. The cake remained untouched, frosting collapsing under its own weight. I drove past the outskirts of Seattle windows, down the night air, slicing through the last remnants of adrenaline. The phone kept buzzing on the passenger seat, but I did not look. I did not need to. The story had already taken on a life of its own, rolling forward like a snowball that no longer needed my push. At 11:59 p.m., I stopped at a red light and glanced into the rear-view mirror. The city lights behind me blurred into streaks of gold and red like time stretching itself thin. Somewhere far away, Silver Lake went dark. Guests left. The last notes of jazz faded. I gripped the wheel and whispered to myself, if they would not invite me, let the world do it instead. Then I drove on into the quiet, into the version of my life that no one else had written for me. By the time morning came, the noise had transformed into something else. No longer chaos, but curiosity. Every major network wanted a soundbite. Every paper wanted a photo. And my inbox was an avalanche of congratulations from people who had ignored my existence a week ago. But I was not thinking about headlines. I was thinking about how to speak without letting the words become weapons. At 9:00 a.m., I walked into Channel 7 studio in Seattle. The air smelled of coffee and stage lighting of nerves and new beginnings. Technicians adjusted microphones and cables while producers murmured about camera angles. When I shook hands with the host, she smiled and said, "Ethan Ward, the man who made the entire state Google his name overnight." "Not sure that is something to brag about," I replied. A few minutes before the broadcast, Catherine Doyle's name lit up the screen. "You ready?" she asked. "As ready as I will ever be. Remember, talk about the mission, not the money. Let them see the purpose, not the price." "I will." "Good," she said. "Then let us remind people what real success looks like." The red light on the camera blinked on. The host turned toward me, her smile composed but her eyes sharp. "Ethan Ward, you have built something extraordinary, an AI platform that could change how hospitals detect heart disease. Overnight, you became one of the most talked about people in Washington. Tell us what started it all." I took a breath, the lights burning against my skin. "It started with loss," I said. "A friend of mine died young from a heart condition that went undetected. I wanted to make sure others got the warning he never had. That is how Synapse AI was born." The host leaned forward slightly. "That is a powerful motivation. And your family, did they know what you were working on all this time?" For a second I hesitated. The whole country was watching, but that question felt like it came from somewhere private. "They knew I was working," I said slowly. "They just did not know why it mattered to me. Maybe that is on me. Maybe it is on all of us." Something shifted in the studio. The host nodded, letting the silence fill the space for a beat before moving on. "There is a lot of talk about humility in technology, about staying grounded. You seem unusually calm for someone who just sold a company for hundreds of millions." calm is not indifference, I said. It is understanding that money does not measure meaning. Success is not about being invited into rooms that once shut you out. It is about staying whole even when you are outside those doors. The control room producer whispered into her microphone, "Keep that line." The host smiled, sensing something deeper was happening. Messages started flooding into the network's live feed. Viewers wrote, "He is so composed. You can feel the pain under his calm. This is what dignity sounds like." Somewhere backstage, my phone vibrated. A text from Noah appeared. "Your family is watching. Logan just posted an apology. Public sincere, I think." Another message followed seconds later, this time from my mother. "I am watching you. I see you." I did not reply. I just looked into the camera and finished the interview with a steady voice. Real success is not proving anyone wrong. It is finding peace and knowing you did not have to shout to be heard. The host sat back. "That is beautifully said." When the cameras stopped rolling, the crew clapped softly. Someone offered me water. Someone else asked for a photo. I nodded politely, but barely heard them. I felt weightless, as though something heavy had finally been set down. Later that day, Catherine called again. "You did it," she said. "That line, the one about the doors, it is already trending. We are replaying your interview during prime time tonight." I smiled. "Good. Maybe someone out there needs to hear it." Before hanging up, she added, "By the way, your brother reached out to our office. He wants to help with the Synapse Foundation Scholarship Fund. I think it is his way of making things right." When I left the studio, the Washington sun was high and blinding. I walked to a small cafe across the street, ordered black coffee, and sat near the window. The television in the corner replayed the segment, my own face staring back at me, saying the words that once felt impossible to say. For the first time, I did not feel like a ghost in my own story. It felt like the verdict had finally been read, and I had won without ever having to raise my voice. 2 months later, the noise had faded. What remained was something quieter and infinitely stronger. The office of the Synapse Foundation overlooked the Columbia River sunlight spilling across the glass floor and turning the space into something that felt almost sacred. We had just finished our first board meeting, approving the initial scholarships for students in biomedical artificial intelligence. Papers were signed, hands shaken, photos taken. When the room finally emptied, I stood by the window, letting the stillness settle. A knock came at the door. I turned, expecting Noah or one of the interns, but it was my mother. She was smaller than I remembered, her posture softer. Her hair silvered more than I had realized. In her hands, she held a small wooden box. "I hope I am not interrupting," she said quietly. "No," I replied. "Come in." She stepped inside, placed the box on my desk, and opened it. Inside lay the old Swiss watch, the one I had given my father, the one he had pushed aside on the counter. Now its surface gleamed, polished, and wound, ticking steadily. "Your father left this with me," she said. "He told me to give it back when you were ready to take it again." I looked at it for a long time. The steady rhythm filled the silence between us. "He always wanted to keep everything perfect," she continued. "But perfection made him deaf to anything that did not shine. I was the same. I thought pride was love dressed properly. But I see now it was armor, and it kept me from hearing you." I met her eyes. I thought silence was cowardice. I said, "Turns out it was the only way to keep myself from saying something I would regret." She smiled faintly, eyes glistening. "We both learned the hard way, did we not?" "Yeah," I said. "But at least we learned." For a while, neither of us spoke. We just sat there, the light moving across the floor, the clock marking each second like a small forgiveness. When she finally stood to leave, she slid an envelope across the desk. "It is a donation," she said. "The first personal investment I have ever made. Not to make up for anything, just to believe in you." I opened it and saw a check made out to the Synapse Foundation. At the bottom, she had written in small, careful letters, "For trust, not for redemption." After she left, I sat at the desk for a long time. The sun dipped lower, and the room grew quiet except for the faint ticking of the watch.